people are like, what were they talking about? What were they
You'll
laughing
never
about?
know.
You'll
You'll
never
never
know. You'll
know.
never know. Dopefoot comes out when this drops tomorrow. It'll be out in the world tomorrow when this episode comes out.
Oh, exciting.
I know it is exciting. Book launches. I don't know. I have a tendency for my own books to be like, another my book's out, okay. But I'm like, no, it should be. It's a celebration. It's a
Well,
hard thing.
it's such a lonely process and a long process. I wrote Dopefoot a year and a half ago. And, I signed my contract with Mad Axe 10 months ago. So,
Yeah,
it's been like a really kind of like a long time coming.
yeah. Before we get into questions, could you give our dear listeners a elevator pitch for Dopefoot as best you can?
The best thing about Dopefoot is kind of like the title says it all, combining Bigfoot and marijuana. It's kind of everything is kind of a springboard from there. But the elevator pitch is, Bigfoot stalking a cannabis farm.
Right. But I would like to. I'll just say this. I'm like we avoid spoilers,
Hmm.
and you absolutely should. I think people honestly should go in this book completely blind because I think
That'd be fun.
that's the best way to. I don't know. I feel like a lot of any kind of story you is improved by just going blind and experience it because I feel like that elevator pitch is accurate, but also belies the depth the book has. Like it has a lot. It has a lot more than that. Oh, Bigfoot going after a cannabis farm, which it is true technically, but there's a lot of stuff going on because the book did surprise me. Because that's what I
Yeah.
went in. I knew that. I knew it was, it's Bigfoot, cannabis farm. Okay, that'll be fun. And then we get ego death. So that was, which I love. Don't get me wrong. I did. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed the book.
If you can't do something original, you can at least do something innovative. And I was very careful to make sure that, there isn't any false advertising here. But, if you look at the cover, which I love how you frame it right there, there's no footprints. There's no,
Right.
hulking, beast, yellow eyes. This is very much what I'm giving you, this awesome cover by Joey Powell at Mad Axe. It's kind of like when you look at it from the bottom up, it starts off as this almost serene hiker, and then you look at what he's hiking into, and it's just nuts.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I felt like Apocalypse Now
Hmm.
at times. I mean, like you even make a reference to it at some
There
point.
is.
Yeah,
There's an
and
Easter egg.
there's a little bit. I'm like, well, that's apt because the
Right,
book
right.
does. It feels like a journey into
Hmm.
like a heart of darkness kind of thing.
Hmm.
It feels like that. Um, okay, my first and like this is kind of not exactly what the book is about, but the book does circle around a lot about myth and mystery and wonder, and obviously that keys into how much information you are giving a reader, how much mystery you are answering, and how much you're purposely not answering. So the first question really is about that: is how much do you give a reader in a book like this, and how do you decide how much you want to give a reader in a book like this?
That's a great question. Before I got back into fiction writing, I worked for about 10 years as a journalist, online, Dread Central, horror movie, media coverage. And you learn in journalism, especially in the digital era, that you can't give your readers any reason to turn away. So, you always talk about a hook of a headline, right? Oh, your headline has to really grab them. Well, I kind of take that one step forward. Not only does your headline have to grab them, the first sentence has to keep them hooked, and then the second sentence has to keep them hooked, and the third sentence has to keep them hooked. And when you do that, you become a very economical writer. And I've taken that economical approach back into my fiction writing, and I think it's part of the reason why my books are they're thin, they feel very immediate. But the other part of that is as an economical narrator, as an economic narrator, when it comes to conveying the truth of what's happening, I leave that to my characters. There are very expository third person narrators who will, tell you everything that a character is thinking and give you backstories and tell you, how realistic or unrealistic the character's fears are. I don't really do any of that, so all that really matters, and I would say this for a lot of my writing, you do that, you let the characters do the heavy lifting, I'm not trying to convince you of anything, but this is what this character believes. And this character really believes it, and I'm not trying to convince you that it's true, but this character is really trying to convince you, really wants you to see things from their perspective. So I don't know if that answers the question, but
I mean, somewhat. It is. I mean, there's. I think some of the. I don't know. I don't know. I'm mean sometimes where I ask questions that
sure, no, I love it.
have no
Challenge
real
me.
answer. Has no real answer. I mean, that's the. Whenever you're constructing narrative, it is like there is no right answer. There's
Mhm.
the answer that you choose for this story. And like, I don't know, the fact that this book is so much about what myth you choose to buy into
Mhm.
and how truth is malleable
Mhm.
and truth is and things are what you and sometimes can be and are what a person defines them as. It doesn't necessarily, the lack of hard truth in our world, especially when you start talking about myth and how we construct myths.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's a couple different segments in the book I was reading. I was like, it's interesting that you reveal that in like reveal this set of information right here. And it's always, my brain's always spinning up like, well, why tell us that? Why build us? And like some of the stuff is absolutely spoilers. So I won't be telling you, I won't be, which is why I'm dancing around it all. But there is a,
Well, we can speak in code. We can speak in
oh,
code
okay.
that the rest of the
Right.
listeners wouldn't understand.
Right. But it's like that interesting question of like, well, it's interesting that you give, there's, I don't know, there's certain things that happen in the story that you explicitly spell out. Oh, this is where that came from. And then there's other things where you're like, what the fuck was that? And there's no answer at all. And I'm like, it's not that you do it, it's more that when and where thing. And I like that you you let your characters lead the way, right?
Hmm.
Where that perspective lead the way.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Uh and that's my next question. Third omniscient, right? Bouncing around to different characters and all this top down perspective.
Hmm.
Why third omniscient? Why is that? Not, would it just feel right for the book?
I mean, obviously, it takes place mostly from Harmless's perspective, but it's
Right.
not Harmless's narrative. You're kind of looking
Right.
over Harmless's shoulder. So you're seeing what he sees, and you're right there along with the ride. But you also see things that he doesn't notice because of how naive and oblivious he is. So, you know, uh, you're able to know things that even the character doesn't. There was, I think you're talking about this one part where I really break. It's kind of an abrupt break, and I get off of Harmless's shoulder and I get on someone else's shoulder. It just felt so necessary for that character.
Right.
You talk about, you want to mention character names here and there. There's a character, Honeydew, who uh, just, what was the question again?
the question the question was why third omniscient.
Why
I
third
mean,
omniscient?
but I mean, Honeydew certainly is. I think she is the. I mean, like she is. It feels like a true innocent character.
Oh, she's the
Yeah.
beating heart of
Yeah.
she's the soul. She's the kind soul. And when because Dopefoot morphed from its first draft, as all great novels should, because then other people contribute ideas and things like that. I had a great alpha reader. I won't even call him a beta reader, and he was like, "Dude, Honeydew." You're gonna see why I said that in a second. He goes, Honeydew is an iceberg. He's like, because it didn't have, I didn't go on Honeydew's shoulder.
Right.
I imply a lot of where her trauma comes from, and there are kind of like legends about why Honeydew is the way she is. But I realized that I had to just give her chapter, her, and it's very abrupt, and saying that I gave her own chapter. If you look at the chapter numbers, hers actually doesn't even have a number. It goes, chapter 23, Honeydew's chapter 24, because
Right.
it's like this really is like a break. This is, a narrative flex that like I had been very firmly atop of Harmless's shoulder, and now I'm taking you to a complete different location on a complete different person, showing you something that no one else besides this character is ever going to experience.
Right. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's a lot of times the answer is always, oh, I need it. I had to. This is too important for me to. I'd rather break the narrative rules that I set up so that I could explore something that I think is vital
Right,
to a
right.
narrative. And I agree. Like, I'm certainly not arguing against it. I think those moments we get with Honeydew are really affecting, really harrowing. And I think they keep the stakes high. They keep
Hmm.
the tension high of like what is, and I think it's a little bit of a, I don't know, again, avoiding spoilers, a palate cleanser from Harmless, who
It
is,
is.
yeah,
And it's right at that critical moment too. And I will let you know, and those who read it and come back and listen to this, or maybe this will just whet your appetite. But even before there was a version of Dopefoot where Harmless, one of the main characters, does cross paths with her again at that point where we see her again, but you just didn't know what she had endured between,
yeah,
the last time Harmless saw her and this time after critical events have happened that he crossed paths with her again. He doesn't know what she's been through. He just sees the result of it. And my alpha reader, he was like, you can't. I mean, honeydew. There's got honeydew.
you need
Like,
to see it.
oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. He said, think of this. He knew that I was thinking about this as like an intellectual property. Like, yes, Hulu, please make this a limited series. Please, Netflix, pick this up to stream. He goes, that's fine, that's good. You want to make a good IP. He goes, now make it a fucking religion. And I was like, yes. So in order to do that, I had to get off of Harmless's shoulder. I had to blow the whole thing up. I had to show you that, as immense as the Green Cauldron was, even this perspective was a microcosm. And yeah, it is that way because it had to be that way.
right. And it's also, I feel like, I don't know, it does, I think, subtly, I don't know, feel, I don't know, the overarching themes of like of knowledge and information and myth and all that, of us knowing, you may know something, but and you may know it's the truth, but then what happens when you encounter something else? Like, what happens when you encounter two truths that are both true, but they're both against each
Yeah,
other? And
yeah.
you're like, well, what does that mean? What is reality crumbling? Maybe.
In some cases, I mean,
Yeah.
that's questions like that drive certain people crazy.
Certain people, you could say.
Hmm.
And this is a little bit, my next question is just, I don't know, I was really fascinated by this book because I don't know, it's another thing I was not expecting, but this book even feels like, I've said this on this podcast before, but I love books that are about America.
Hmm.
And I didn't expect it from this book, but this book, I think, is about America a little bit.
I've
And
even said, I told
yeah,
people, this is my great American novel. It didn't start out that way. I
right,
didn't know that I was gonna like bleed so much into this novel and into Harmless and just his transformation. But yeah, and it is very geo-locked into Northern California, America. Most people don't realize that redwood trees, the giant redwood trees that are so popular, they only grow in one part of the world, not just in one part of the continent. So, the redwoods hold in this great mystery. The wilderness up there in Northern California, Oregon, Washington, Canada is really wild, and it's just it's geo-locked. It is America, and the cultures that I
right.
think are represented in the characters are all very American, specifically California, but yes, American.
Well, I mean, it's the Wild West. I feel like
Hmm.
that. I feel like that's another thing. It's a little bit of a Western in here. It's like that little,
Absolutely.
well, that of the wildness and like where there's not much left.
Right.
But when you find it, it is really both invigorating and terrifying. It could be
Right.
both of those things, which is what it happens in your story. And I don't know if any of that came first, but maybe Bigfoot came first, which is the question. Is like Bigfoot is an American myth, right? He's the American cryptid. If you can have anybody from the whole world name an American monster, we have Bigfoot, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I mean,
it,
Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot, they're the two biggest in the
those
world.
exactly. So is did that come first, or were you just like, I want to write a Bigfoot book, and
Absolutely.
and then okay, and it backslid into this look at it like a myth, an American myth.
I mean, it became what it became. When I got the title, everything came into focus. I did simply want to write a Bigfoot book. I had relocated to Northern California, and I'm talking above Sacramento. When you get this high up, the wilderness does start to close in around you. I've always been fascinated by Bigfoot. I'm now living in quote unquote Bigfoot country. I'm like, I want to write a Bigfoot book. And, I'm always like, the title is just so important. I had ideas running around my head. I was like, I'm going to check all the boxes and just make an excellent Bigfoot book. And I'll put it out, and people will go like, "This is a great, new release from Josh Millican. Let's look forward to his next thing," and I move on to the next thing. I didn't know it was going to become what it became. But anyway, when the title Dopefoot emerged, I had help with it. I'll admit that. When Dopefoot, entered the atmosphere, that was it. It was perfect. It's kind of like what I told you before. The title is the story. It combined Bigfoot with cannabis, and it geo-locked it in America with the cannabis industry. And it is an interesting time for the cannabis industry as well, because we live in an era now where the myth of the mom and pop cannabis farm, the hippies who went up to Northern California to live free, and that way of life has been kind of squeezed out. Legalization allowed anyone to buy their way in, and you know pushed people out who had been part of the community since the beginning. So yeah, it is very Wild West. You got people just trying to hold on to the last vestiges of their culture. And it is still far enough off the grid where they make up their own rules. They it's called outlaw justice. They have a committee for the really complex decisions, but there's a code, a twisted and cultish code, but there's a very strict code.
Right. That is also falling apart because
Mm,
of the intruders, these outsiders. Some are, more, and that there's no good. The problem is none of them are like good. It's all bad choices. It's all like,
right,
well, who do you side with? Both people you hate. You
right,
have to,
right.
but you have to choose somebody or. But I mean, it's like that. I don't know about the. I don't know. You look at when you mentioned like the Great American Novel, but it is this portrait of this Wild West in America, but it's also the of commercialization, capitalism, of
Yes,
of what was a formerly frowned upon, outsider culture until money can be made,
right.
and then suddenly, oh well, no, now it's a business. Now we can sell it. So now it's not an outsider culture. Now it is
Hmm.
a gold rush.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Another
Said
California
it was the
thing.
green rush, but
Right.
what that connects to is the gold rush, and that follows exactly what you were saying. There are actually echoes of this throughout history. Before cannabis came, it was already a potentially violent, conflicted area. You had logging, you had mining, like you already talked about. You had the gold rush happened there. The history of California is very violent in terms of how the republic was mapped and conquered, and a lot of crimes committed against the indigenous populations. But then when you go back even farther, you realize that the indigenous populations were very divided, and they were very violent to each other as well. Yeah, the Pacific Northwest is very bloody,
Right.
as far back as you look. So it might seem like, oh, peaceful forest was ruined by the greedy cannabis industry, but it's like it's just an echo. It happens again and again. And every single time, of course, nature for the most part just beats him back. And even when nature can't beat him back, nature just moves on.
Yeah, there's I don't know, there's a lot of stuff happening in the book, a lot of layers, and I feel like that's the thing where I don't want. I'm gonna give this to my any listeners to be like, oh, it's just a stoner Bigfoot book.
Yeah.
It is not. I mean, there is that in there. Don't get me wrong,
Right,
but
right.
there is a lot of stuff going on. It's actually it's my favorite kind of book. It's the smart dumb book, where it's like you take a what on the surface level is a simple concept, but then you make it really complicated and really interesting and really nuanced. And anyone listening out there's on the fence, you should go read Dopefoot. And it's also a blast, and it moves quick. Like you said, it is. You are a very economical writer. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially when my TVR is so long.
Right.
I have so
Yeah.
many books to read. Oh, there's so I think the other thing, another I mentioned it earlier. Another thing the book touches upon is wonder and mystery in the how important it is to have some in your life, to have wonder present in your life,
Mm.
and how harmless needs to go. You know, he's this. I don't know. It's also part of that kind of great American myth of traveling out to you go out to the country and you find wonder again. You know,
Mm.
city life and closed urban life eliminates wonder, and about finding wonder on the edges of things, on the edge of like because all these people are outlaws, or they were or have been as their culture kind of has been crushed by outsiders. Was that I don't know. How did you pull at that thread? Like, there's this like kind of dichotomy in the book about the threat of living on the edge, right? The
Mm.
danger of being on your own versus the wonder of being on your own. How do you balance that when you're like pulling out the themes of the book?
It's tricky. Yeah, you're right. It's a dance, because there are themes similar to, you mentioned Heart of Darkness, and I would also say Lord of the Flies.
Right. Yeah.
When you get too far away from the structure of things, things can morph very quickly. But, in terms of the wonder, I did kind of want to carry that through. I mean, I I personally am very skeptical about the existence of Bigfoot, but I would be delighted if it turned out if someone actually brought proof and there was clear photographic, biological, the whole deal. I would be like, wow, the earth, the world is so much more delightful now that we've proven that Sasquatch is real. And I think a lot of people have that sense of like, wish it were true, almost. The Patterson Gimlin film, has been around for so long. That's that iconic
Yeah.
footage, the grainy footage. It really is kind of like the first found footage hit, if you think about it.
Yeah.
And it was presented to me at a very young age as, yes, this is real. And it was like, oh, okay. So if you're very, very lucky and you're out in the woods, you could potentially see a Sasquatch. And it was easier to believe, even like it was a lot easier to believe even 20 years ago when everyone didn't have a camera on their phone.
Right.
It's just so hard to believe now, when we have like satellites and drones and everyone has clear cameras and there's an industry, literally $1 billion industry around Sasquatch and Bigfoot between all the shows and the merch and things like that. What was that go? Anyway,
Wonder. Wonder.
wonder. Yeah, people are they don't want to give up their belief in Bigfoot because it feels good to believe in Bigfoot, and the idea that Bigfoot's out there makes the world mysterious. I explore in Dopefoot that, I think the wilderness triggers something primal in all of us.
Right.
If you don't believe in Bigfoot, it's probably because you are very far removed from the wilderness where Bigfoot sightings are common. If you came and you lived in this specific area, situations similar to what I described in Dopefoot, really, really far out there. If you were amongst the trees for an extended period of time, you might not believe in Bigfoot, but you might be very afraid of what you cannot see. I feel like you're more apt to believe in Bigfoot in those types of situations.
Right. It's I don't know. It is this push pull and throughout the book of wonder and threat and belief and myth and how multiple things are both true all at the same time.
Hmm.
And I don't know. You caught me off guard.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Don't, and it does books don't do that a lot to me anymore. Which is I know I think just anytime it happens, I'm just like, oh wow, I wasn't expecting that. That's lovely.
It means a lot to me. Thank you.
And there's also I can't. There's a thing I really want to say, but it's absolutely a spoiler. So I will just tell you when we're done recording
All right.
about a
All
very
right.
specific thing that I found delightful
I can't
because
wait to hear it.
that's just a trope that I love. Whenever it shows
Hey,
up in any kind of mostly horror fiction, but like a thing that shows up, I'm always like, oh yes, there's one of those in this book. Yes, thank you. You did it for me. It's this one. It's like that Junji Ito meme. The hole. This one is made for me. I feel it sometimes.
well, just
Um,
tell me now and we'll cut it out.
no, 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 no,
All right. Let's keep
no,
going. Let's keep
no.
going.
It's I don't. I try to avoid making more work for myself.
Okay.
I already
I
have enough
feel
of
you.
it. That is it for questions. People should go. They have Dopefoot's out tomorrow. By the way, if you're listening to this the day this drops, if you're listening later, it's out. Go buy it. Go
Mm.
read it. It's the best book about and not about Bigfoot that I've ever read.
Well, it's about Bigfoot. I mean,
It is about Bigfoot. It's not a lie.
well, Bigfoot is more than just
Exactly.
the American cryptid. Bigfoot is a phenomenon. Bigfoot resonates with the human experience.
Right.
So it is about
Exactly.
belief.
I
So
would. It's about Bigfoot the monster and Bigfoot the idea.
mhm. And there is a creature. I mean,
Yeah.
I promise you a creature. This isn't
There's
a
multiple
spoiler.
creatures. There's more
There's
than one.
creatures, sure.
There's creatures. It's scary.
I give you what I promise, in that this is a cryptid mystery. But I do present them in ways that I hope at least seem semi plausible. I play it straight. I'm
Hmm.
not trying to yank your chain. I'm actually trying to be like, can you imagine it? And
Right.
have the readers be like, I could see that. So there's a creature though. There's some creatures.
There are creatures. I'm not. It's a wild. Again, feels like you're stepping foot into a different world.
Hmm.
That the whole book is you are going with harmless, which is also a great name for a
Yeah.
I love that's perfect name
Thank you. Thank you.
for
Yeah,
all for
I
all
appreciate that.
for all for his journey.
Yeah.
It's very appropriate. We can move on
Yes. Let's move on.
to the second act where I will ask you broader bookish questions.
Hmm.
And the first question is from our last guest, who is AC Hessenauer, and her question for you is a question she said she was curious about other authors because she feels about this. She feels this way in some regard. Do you have a past book that you wish you could rewrite or do over? Do you ever look back at any past work and go, man, if I had another crack at it, new modern day me, could I? Would you want to rewrite an old work, refresh it?
I mean, I think, of course, there would be that desire to improve. I think writing books makes us better writers, and each time we write a book, we're a better writer than we were when we started. And so, yeah, there's always going to be that urge to go back and fix it up a little bit. And if I ever did a re-release of Deeper Than Hell and or Septum, because the two stories are interwoven, I would absolutely want the opportunity to go back and be like, okay, older, wiser, smarter Josh wants to zip it up here and there and be more economic here and there, and absolutely, absolutely. But besides that, I really can't see doing that for the sheer fact that if you do that, you never stop. You know, there's that saying, like, you know, great art is never finished, it's just abandoned. I don't want to turn
Right.
into George Lucas going back and fixing every, you know, and like,
Yeah.
oh, now that I can make, you know, this funky little thing in the creature cantina, I'm gonna throw that in there too. It's just like move on, you know. It would have been so much nicer to get something original or at least innovative.
A new thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, a new. I don't know. There's with that new with that the Mandalorian movie came out. There's been a lot of people who are like, yeah, the prequels were bad, but I think I'd rather have George Lucas back, even the prequels George Lucas at this point, than this kind of bland, fun
Hmm.
thing. I don't know. I just saw a meme about George Lucas this morning about people missing George Lucas, and I'm like,
I'm not a big Star Wars fan at all. I will say this before we merge back. Yeah, I think the reason the prequels failed is because George Lucas didn't let other people collaborate enough. He
oh
was
yeah,
very
absolutely.
insistent on, you know, I'm George Lucas and this is this. And that's fine, you know, because he is George Lucas. But I think all great art benefits from collaboration, and that's with anything. That's across the board. I know that Dopefoot evolved in some really important ways thanks to collaboration in terms of alpha, beta readers, in terms of editors, in terms of other, you know, people who can get invested in the ideas and help me navigate how to do things like that. Another thing an editor had me do was bring in an important character's death, which had been an off screen. There, you know what I'm talking about. There was an
Yes.
important character whose death it really does kind of happen off screen, but I at least give you a way to witness it with your own eyes. And that was at
It's
the
oh my god.
that was at the request of an editor who was like, you can't not. We have to see this character's death. You've shown us so much we didn't expect to see. But the editor said, you know, people are going to feel disappointed if you don't give us that, you
Yeah.
know. So
It. I
I
mean,
agreed.
I know exactly what you're talking about,
Hmm.
and I can't imagine not. I mean, it is. It's horrible, but it is
Hmm.
necessary. I
Yeah.
feel like you do need to see it. Um, I mean, no, but that's a good point. Like, I mean, yes, I think we kind of danced around that when she told me that question. I'm like, well, it's like that. Of course, I would make it better because I'm a better writer, an
Hmm.
old thing. But it's also like that's a portrait of me, portrait of
Mm.
me as an artist at that
Sure.
time, and I
Absolutely.
don't fixing it will not is kind of defeating the point of I'm busy with the next thing I'm working on. Keep they're not. It's raw. It's different. It's a little naive in some ways, but that's also the beauty of it.
Yeah, you know, if I'm a best-selling author like Stephen King and they want to re-release my early works from an indie press, they want to do it on the Big Five with an international. Of course, I'm gonna go back and fine-tooth comb that shit. But in the meantime, when I'm just a emerging indie author, I think it's way more important to think about what I'm doing next and to, you know, be involved with what the community is making, you know, besides what you're working on.
Yeah, 100%. Question I ask everybody: who is a writer more people should be reading? And you can give me more than one name if you'd like.
You know, my two favorite authors right now are Allison Mick, who just came out with Humboldt Cut in February. That's another geo-locked Northern California forest horror. It's actually been described as redwood gothic.
Ooh,
Yeah, so
you just say those words. I'm like, all right, I want to read it now.
you got to check it out. You know, it's different than Dopefoot in that it is very lush and it is very expressed. You know, it is very classical, pulling on these really traditional gothic tropes. You know, it's substantial too. It's like an entire novel and a prequel, all in this amazingly thought out, you know, at times dissonant story, but at the same time, there are similarities with Dopefoot, and that has to do with the geo lock of the Pacific Northwest. So check out Humboldt Cut, Allison Mick. Got some cryptids in that too. Not too much of a spoiler. Uh, Another author everyone should read more of is Bitter Corella. Are you going to be at Stoker's?
I will be at
Uh,
Stoker.
so it's in the past now that we're talking about it.
Right. Yeah. Stoker just happened. But yeah.
So Bitter Corella may or may not be a Stoker winning author. Their debut novel, Moonflow, also takes place in the Pacific Northwest in an imagined forest based on the real forest up here. Uh, Different from Dopefoot in that it is. I mean, if you think Dopefoot's crazy,
Yeah.
you ain't seen nothing yet. There is like a list of trigger warnings before Moonflow that's like this long. But I loved it. And again, as different as it is from Dopefoot, there are similarities. In all three of our works, actually, you have the echoes of the gold rush and the logging industry and the indigenous culture that was there before us. And now the drug culture, in some way, is mentioned in all three of these books. Humboldt Cut, Dopefoot, Moonflow. I think they make a really good trio, actually. So two authors that people should read more of. Those are my two favorite authors of the time. I feel like we're all synced up on these, forest horror projects. And if you think Dopefoot sounds like something you'd like to check out, then I would also highly recommend Moonflow and Humboldt Cut.
I'll have links to that stuff in the show notes.
Awesome.
Yeah, I met Bitter at AuthorCon for the first time. Yeah.
They are awesome. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they're really having a moment right now. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I
it's always good
mean,
to see. It's
yeah.
always nice to see someone get flowers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
Allison Mick is going to be at Stoker
Okay.
as well. So,
I'll
you're going
probably
to be.
well, I mean it's there's God almighty. I didn't know. I went last year for the first time and I didn't really know many people. So I was kind of like, but now I know a lot. I do this podcast and now I know a lot of people. I feel like I'm going to be constantly like
I
talking.
know a ton of people who are going to be there. I've
Yeah.
never been,
You
but I
should go.
seriously, I probably know 30 people who are going to be there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of like, I don't know. It feels, I'm like, everyone's like, everybody's on the podcast. I'm like, am I going to see a Stoker? Because it's that kind of thing where you're like, you just
Well,
kind of,
I'll tell
everyone's
you,
there and you get to see everybody. It's nice.
I'll be there when they live stream the awards banquet, actually, rooting for my, home
Right.
state homies. So if you know where they're live streaming from, you can run by the live stream
I'll
and be
run
like,
right by front of
"What's up,
the
Josh? Good to see you, Josh.
camera. I mean,
You're here with
I,
us."
I will be, the camera, at least last year, was back where all the seats, where all the people who don't buy banquet.
I mean, it wasn't a
I don't,
very good view,
no,
personally. I
no,
mean,
it's
if you
not,
can say,
it's
look,
not, it's not the
Joshua
ideal.
Millican is watching this right now, so he requests a
A
better
better,
view.
I don't,
What can we do here?
that's above my pay grade, unfortunately.
I
Production,
know, I
production of
know.
Stoker.
Hey, it's in the past. By
It's
the
in the
time
past.
this is airing,
It's already happened.
nothing we can do about it.
Nothing.
The
Yeah, it's
future
already.
is the future cannot be
I'm
changed.
believe me, I'm already like God. My next few weeks include StokerCon and a lot of other stuff, and I'm very stressed out about it.
I am too. I mean, Dopefoot comes out in 3 weeks. I mean,
I know.
tomorrow on this one, but
Tomorrow, yeah, exactly. In the future.
it's a crazy time. And then
Uh,
afterwards, there's that period where you're like, oh my God, what the fuck do I do now? It's almost like postpartum depression. And you're
so
just
your
like,
book is what you should be doing is constantly still selling your book but it's a hard thing to do when you're
it
like you've been
is.
doing it for months and months already,
Yeah.
and now you're like keep going. You're like okay, I want
Keep
to
doing it.
yeah keep doing it.
Never ends.
Next question is, what's the best piece of advice you followed?
Best piece of advice I've followed. Uh, I guess it might be Joe Lansdale who said this, or you might know who actually said it. Right from the wound. Because you have to feel it in order for someone else to feel it. Write things that make you uncomfortable, put yourself in situations that you would not want to be in, and then imagine a genuine reaction to it. I know that I had a rough year. 2025 wasn't my best year. It's also the year I wrote Dopefoot. It's also the year Dopefoot was signed to Mad X Media, and I got to work with Joey and Nico Bell, who is the editor, and had a great experience. But there is some of my own personal therapy in Dopefoot too. It doesn't interfere with the narrative in any way, but it did influence the narrative in some very key, important ways. Um, what was the question?
Advice.
Advice, yeah, right from the wound. Also, write something that you enjoy writing about. You will write your best prose when you're writing about something you love. So if you're trying to, follow a trend because you think, that's what's big right now, and you're like struggling to fit a mold, it probably won't be your best work. I really wanted to write a Bigfoot book. It's
Right.
not like I was like, oh, the Bigfoot industry is gonna embrace me. It was like, no, I want to live in Bigfoot world right now. I had just
Yeah.
moved. I'm surrounded here, so write from the wound and also write what you love. So yeah, it's two sides of the same spectrum. I think
Yeah.
write what hurts, but write about something you love talking about and thinking about, something you love thinking about, something you love
But
immersing yourself in.
you're gonna have to, because you're gonna be in it for a long time,
Yeah,
especially if it gets picked up and published, or you publish it yourself. You're gonna
exactly.
be talking about that book for the rest of your life.
Hmm,
So
hmm.
make sure you like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll we talked about this earlier. So, what is the gateway? What was your gateway horror media?
Gateway horror media. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there is Twilight Zone Marathon, which I saw very young when there were fewer channels and it came on every Memorial Day. There's also Land of the Lost, which really scared me when I was a kid. And, the dinosaurs were scary just because of the way they moved, and even though they were clearly puppets. But what really scared me about Land of the Lost, and maybe other adults will think back and this might resonate with them as well, but Chaka scared the fuck out of me because I didn't think that that was a real kid in there. That was so convincing to me that I was like, what is this? It was so uncanny valley. Kind of like Bigfoot. He's
Yeah.
like a little Bigfoot. And I'm like seeing him and I'm like, that's not a kid in a costume. Like all the other stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Even as a kid, you can tell that's a plastic dinosaur. But I was like, what is Chaka? And it freaked me out because even if they were representing something that happened in the past, this was on film. This wasn't a special effect, So he freaked me out in ways that the Slee Stack didn't freak me out. Chaka, what was he? Just horrified me. So yeah, Land of the Lost, Twilight Zone. I was born the same year as The Exorcist, so I feel like that's always kind of like been in the back of my mind. The fact that there's this thing that exists that's so scary and so terrifying and so controversial. When I finally saw it when I was 11 or 12, I was like, oh, this isn't as bad as what I imagined. I mean, it's still now as an adult I see it, it's even scarier. But at the time I was like, oh, I imagined something even crazier than that. And, it's like, okay, I have an imagination that, can come up with this stuff. So anyway, I don't even know how this is a tangent. We
You're
went into the
fine. I mean,
future.
it's all that. No, you're good. I mean, it's those are all like. I mean, same with Twilight Zone. I love Twilight Zone. It's one of my favorite
Oh
things
yeah, talking
ever.
about the roots of my
Yeah, but it's.
horror.
I mean, I don't think I was. I again was not expecting a Land of the Lost answer. I don't think I've ever. But even though you are right, it's like again, it's like whenever you watch. To me, I'm like I don't know why. Maybe it's just because we're talking about Dopefoot, but Harry and the Andersons. I watched that
Mm,
when I was a little kid, and that scared. It was supposed to be a funny thing. I did
right.
not think it was funny. I thought it was terrifying. That big Bigfoot monster. He is Bigfoot, I guess,
He
but
is, yeah.
it scared the crap out of me. I did not think. I'm like, they're letting a monster in their home. This thing is going to kill their children. Why are
Mm,
they? Whatever. It's fine. I was a child again. When you're a kid, the lens of
Real.
you don't understand media, really. You don't
Mhm.
understand like the abstract of like, oh, this is supposed to be a thing for fun. You're like, no, this is terrifying.
And
Like
that's
that
why
thing.
I was so susceptible to Patterson Gimlin. I think why so many of us are susceptible to the original Bigfoot, that little clip of film, that found footage super moment, that thing that we've all seen, um, because it has always been presented as truth. And
Right.
even every time someone comes out and says, "I have definitive proof it's a hoax," someone will come back and say, "Oh, but you still can't prove that it absolutely 100% isn't real." So the fact that it was presented as real just really impressed. We didn't have all the science guys and the
No.
Bigfoot explorer crews going out and finding nothing back then. It
Okay.
really seemed legit.
This is a tangent from my prepared questions, but you brought bringing all this up. I should have thought about this earlier, but I've been randomly getting fed on my Instagram just of the random stuff that pops in. I've been getting this Instagram account that is randomly showing just like embalmed pieces of a Bigfoot corpse. Have you
I've
been
seen
seeing?
those
Oh,
too.
okay.
Yeah,
And
there too.
presenting it as real, and I'm like,
Right.
and out of
It's
nowhere, I'm like,
mummified. It's the
okay,
mummified body parts,
mummified.
right? Because
Okay,
they're really big, but he
yeah,
says they're really light because they're mummified and they've been preserved. Yeah, obviously it's bullshit. They look,
right. But
you
it
know,
is fun that it's just crazy that I was just like, oh,
well,
they're
there's
just
another one you should check out that at least the illusion is much better. There's a guy I've seen on Instagram. I don't want to give him too much press, but
okay,
if you look up Bigfoot remains, there's a
okay,
guy who basically has his own like traveling carnival thing, and he's got some pictures of when he stumbled across this Bigfoot body in the wilderness, and he's got pictures of him standing over the decomposing. Like maybe it's been out there for I don't know 8 days, 10 days. So a really rough looking Bigfoot, but it looks great. Much better than those paper
really,
mache
yeah,
looking
it looks real
with the
bad.
crazy teeth.
Yeah,
That look like dentures. So
it,
check out Bigfoot Remains if
okay.
you're interested in something that
I, I
actually is a little bit more fun to play
I
along with.
I think it's the I don't know. I think it's because it's so fake that am latched on. I'm like, it's clearly
Oh,
not.
ridiculous.
It's obviously not remains of anything.
I
But
mean,
just
I
this,
don't even think that head would fit in the back seat of a normal car.
no,
They must
it's
have rented a
nonsense.
U-Haul to bring that shit
It's
out,
it's all nonsense. But
It's
I don't
total
know.
nonsense.
I had forgotten about it, and then you because I don't know. I should have
Yeah.
been thinking about it more because we've been talking about Bigfoot for
Yeah,
the past
Bigfoot.
45 minutes. Um, let's see. Let's do one more question.
Yeah.
Um, what's the hardest scene or character you've ever written, and what made it so difficult?
Yeah, I think the end of Teleportasm, not the actual epilogue. Have you read Teleportasm?
I haven't, not yet.
Oh man, there's a character Frankie, and what happens to her is just so fucked up. And it's like I kind of like imagined this fucked up fate, as I was writing the character. So I always knew in the back of my mind that she was not going to last. But by the time I got there, and by the time Teleportasm was finished, I just feel like, why did I felt almost guilty
Yeah,
for what I had put her through. I liked her so much more when I was done. She was so much more actualized, and it was like, I could have killed her, but I killed the fuck out of her, you know? So, that was kind of harder for me than I thought it was going to be. Maybe not both in writing it and releasing it. It was like, oh, poor Frankie is just she's just gonna be laid out so bare in front of everyone who
yeah,
reads this. Part of me hates seeing characters I love die, so I imagine prequels or sequels or things like that. I have imagined a Teleportasm sequel called Frankie's Revenge, where, because I go off on all sorts of different teleportation tangents, where, a second Frankie got recreated in a tangent universe, and she's
there you
going to
go.
come back and she's going to fuck up the people who fucked her up. So, yeah, long story to tell you. Yeah, that was the
I mean
toughest
it.
scene. The
I mean
death of
it's
Frankie in Teleportasm.
yeah. I mean it's the whenever you have to do an unjust thing to a character,
Hmm.
even though the story needs it,
Yeah.
you're just like, I don't. It feels like you're doing it in real life, even though
Yeah.
they're not real. They're not a
Yeah.
real person. You're just orchestrating it, so
Right.
you are sort of responsible.
Right. Right.
Yeah. What's your question for our next guest?
My question for your next guest is, without spending more than 3 minutes discussing it,
Okay.
because this can take up your whole show. Do you think or hope that the AI bubble is about to burst?
Okay. We're gonna have some AI discussion.
Don't get too deep into it because it really
Yeah.
sucks oxygen out of the
Yes.
room for other really important discussions. Like every time I see a con is doing a panel on AI or something, I'm like, why didn't you have a panel on an up and coming screenwriter or
Yeah.
author? And I guess it's a leading question because I want to believe that the AI bubble is about to burst. I am so sick of talking about it.
I yes, we could easily but now spin off
Let's
into a
not.
discussion. Yeah,
Let's
let's not.
not. Next
Exactly.
question.
Next question. Well, the next question is actually the last segment.
Hmm.
It is time for our final segment. It is time for blood. It is time for trouble, for struggle, for hardship, for it could be nuts and bolts, mechanical things with a work in progress or something recent. Could be philosophical problems. Could be ethos. Could be social media, marketing, business problems. Could be any of those things. What's on top of mind? What's a recent thing you could talk about?
Well, jeez, that's a crazy question. Yeah, nuts and bolts. So you
Could be
want me to?
anything.
Okay, yeah. This is my fourth fiction novel that I've put out, and you learn lessons each time, and I'm just as hard as I can this time. I'm embracing um, social media. I'm really trying to up my Insta presence. I love doing podcasts like this, especially when they show the face. I guess what I'm thinking about, what I'm struggling with, and what I still don't know how it's gonna resolve itself is how much, and how to do enough but not too much, and how to keep the momentum and how to keep the interest. I will tell you one thing that has influenced the way I've been talking about Dopefoot and the length of time I've been talking about Dopefoot. I remember it was probably 2024 at this point when Wake Up and Open Your Eyes came out.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, didn't this come out months ago? And it was because I had been seeing that cover for months already, and I had been hearing the glowing ARC reviews and NetGalley reviews and media reviews for months that it had already proven itself as worthy of popular cultural attention.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, I really hope I could do that for Dopefoot, where by the time Dopefoot comes out, I don't want them to say, like, didn't that already come out? But be like, oh, I've heard of that. To at least be like, oh, I've heard of that. And I've been trying, I've been trying to
Yeah.
get out there. I've really been, sort of spreading my wings and reaching out to as many people as I know from the past and the present and hopefully the future. I guess
It's very hard.
it's really hard. I think one of the things that supposedly comes with the big five publishing experience is marketing, a marketing team. I really wish I had other people doing this for me, picking the perfect fonts, and I would just send them the little video clips, and they would take care of everything. And uh, all that is really distracting from the art of
Yeah.
writing, which I love so much. I saw it happening with the music industry where, it wasn't enough just to be in a band. Now you had to be able to record your own album, and it had to be radio worthy before any of the big labels would look at you. And I feel like it's kind of the same thing now. You already have to be a famous author with a ready to publish book before the big five will even look at you. It's like, it's it's tough. Anyway, I guess I'm talking about social media
Yeah.
and promotion. nuts and bolts of it.
I mean, it's the you're not the obviously you're not the first person to talk. We've it's been a running theme of many people. Like very few people have come on and talk about like, oh, I had a trouble with my second act.
Right.
Everyone's like, I don't want to dance on Instagram to sell my book. I just want it.
Yeah.
I just want my like. But I mean, there's I from my limited understanding of trad publishing and Big Five is like there's a lot of like an agent,
Hmm.
a well-known agent. I don't remember their name, but they went on a podcast recently and was like, the best thing an author can do, and this is a big five author. They're going to get wide release bookstores. The best thing they can do is take everything from their advance, immediately hire a publicist with it.
Publicist.
An entire whatever your advance is, take all that money, no matter how much it is, 500 to 5,000 to 10,000, whatever, ridiculous amount of money, and give it directly to a publicist because in the long run, that's going to be more beneficial to your career than pocketing that money or
Sure, you're
putting.
right. I mean, I'm
But
sure that person's right.
it's also like, well, what if I want to use that money to live? I want to pay my bills with it, or I'd like to help pay my mortgage, or whatever it is.
Then you have to, work a second job.
Yes.
Part of what I've been doing, how I've been bringing in how I've been turning my writing into income. Teleportasm, it still sells really well when I bring it to conventions and book fairs and things like that. It's very popular, and it's part of the Killer VHS series, which is becoming very popular.
Yeah.
And every time a new VHS title drops, it reinvigorates interest in the entire series. So it's been doing well. I feel like I'm part of this new breed of people who are going town to town with their books and suitcases, trying to have like a
Yeah.
really good weekend or a really good single gig, because if I could sell 25, 30 copies of Teleportasm at every stop, I'd be making a decent secondary income. And hopefully with Dopefoot, then I would have two bombs in my arsenal.
Yeah.
But it's
I'm
still like, yeah, I'm putting in the legwork because publicist. That's interesting. I'll definitely
Well,
be
I mean,
thinking about.
I'm literally I have in this upcoming weekend, which is again in the past for everyone listening to this.
Right,
I'm selling books at a convention all 3 days, so I am doing. I mean, I am in that same boat where I am hand selling books to people. It's that, but it's like that's another aspect of promotion, another way
mhm,
to reach a reader. You go on podcasts, you go on social media, our reach, trying to expand our reach, make the mythical like have more people see it, find a viral. I mean, it's the question of I don't know. I wrote this down on a note card because I saw an interview the other day and it says, "What are you willing to do to scale?" Because if you're
mhm.
indie, if you're a self-published or indie author, you you have to reach more people. You have to quote unquote in business terms scale. You have to
Right,
scale up. How do you do that? And it's like, what are you willing to do that? Because
right,
that's another job. That's it might be three more jobs. Really, it's not just
really,
one job. I mean, like, and it's at a certain point, it's like I hire people. That could be like, but not everyone has. Most people don't have like, I can't afford employees. That's
right,
crazy.
right.
That's
Well, here's
craziness.
here's a sad reality that I've learned, and we don't have to dwell on it, but I mean, it's happy and it's sad because, on the one hand, I know some big five authors, and it sounds like they're having the same problems I'm having, which is
Yeah,
kind of just getting enough attention, getting enough support, from the team, whatever that is. And at the same time, I think there are a lot of indie authors who are giving the big five experience, namely shortwave. I
yeah,
mentioned Killer VHS before. Alan Listufka has kind of really set the bar for an indie press giving the full big five experience. What he's done with Nat Cassidy's latest release
yeah.
is phenomenal, and I connected with him 3.5 years ago, when we first started talking about teleportasm. So, I've been watching his rise for a long time. But yeah, the entire industry is getting squeezed right now because the entire economy is getting squeezed right now. Another tangent we could
Yeah, go on
stay
forever.
away from,
Yeah.
but everything's you know, travel and everything's being impacted. So, you know, as much as there's excitement and as much as there's great people like Bitter and Allison out there to go check out, and, you know, so many great cons, and publishers, you know, there, it's not a lack of talent, it's not a lack of amazing stories,
No, not at all.
and it's not even a lack of people who want to support it. We're just all in a squeeze right
Yeah.
now. It's a really tough time to be
Well,
trying to sell
yes,
anything.
it's not just books. It's literally anything you want to try and sell.
Anything.
But I think that's when you bring up like what the right balance of doing enough but not doing too much so you don't, burn yourself out and kill
Yeah.
yourself with overwork. It is that understanding of yes, like there's many factors at work in
Hmm.
trying to get a new reader, and you control very few of them. Do as much as you can, and then try and be content and be happy, and
Yeah.
do what you can and be. And it comes back around to like what you were even talking about earlier, where the advice is like write the thing that you love and you want to think about a lot, and just find joy in the fact that the readers you do get and the people who your work does reach, and you find those people who immediately understand you and love that thing as much as you do, and
Hmm.
come to you and are excited about it. You're like, wow, man, you wrote this book is great. I'm so happy. And then I think that's I don't know. I have also been like trying to cultivate. It's okay. You
Hmm.
can't do everything. There's always more you could do. Like there's no
Right.
limit. And it's
Right.
like you can't, but you can also have to live your life.
Yeah.
You have to be a human being. You have
In
to
my
survive.
case, a father and a husband as well.
Exactly.
So, you know.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, it's like work-life balance. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, you can't try. You have to. You want to be a sane individual when you're not
Yeah.
doing work or whatever it is.
You know, I'm putting my full heart into Dopefoot in every respect, you know, from the the effort I put into making the manuscript as polished as possible, to, you know, employing as many resources as have been offered me. You know, I would love this to be a stepping stone and to take a big leap and to have an announcement about when my next book is coming out within the next few months. But at the end of the day, if I'm just taking Dopefoot in my suitcase from con to con or fest to fest or pop up market, horror event, bookstore, you know, I do have a jobby job right now, and I'll just do that, and that'll be enough. That'll be my means to an end.
Exactly. I mean, it's like I don't know. There's also the grand scope of human history. The vast majority of artists of all types.
Hmm.
They are. That's what
We struggle.
we struggle. Yeah, it's like that's for our art. That is becoming. It's a stereotype for a reason. We're out of time, Josh.
It's been a
Uh,
pleasure.
the podcast police are here. Before we go, I want you to manifest something
Hmm.
for your career, for something near to intermediate future. What would you like to happen? Speak it aloud, and it will happen.
Yeah, I have like three manuscripts and one great outline holstered. I would love to uh, create enough buzz where I can connect with an indie publisher, and be able to, like I just said, man, I really want to manifest being able to announce my next book. I don't think I have anything ready to go to print right now, but I have completed manuscripts that I would love someone else to get excited about with me and hook me up with the right editors, and, you know, allow me to really dive into revisions and research and things like that. So, yeah, I'm just manifesting the next book I can really give my soul to and love as much as Dopefoot, because I love Dopefoot.
It will happen. You spoke.
All right.
That's the rules of this podcast. You speak it aloud, and it will happen. I think it will. I
I like your philosophies.
I well, I mean, like a lot of it's just like, well, you are a hardworking, talented writer,
Thank you.
and a lot of that will take care of it,
I appreciate you. You
right?
know,
Yeah.
I see you on social media doing so much right. You're talking to all the great writers who, you know, I would be humbled to consider myself peers of. And
You are. You're
thank
on this
you.
podcast. You're part of the family.
You're just doing so much right, and I really appreciate that you're bringing me on and letting me talk about Dopefoot to all of your fans and all of your listeners. I couldn't do this without people like you.
I try real hard is whenever I do real try real hard. I think we're all trying real hard.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Um, Before we go, where should people buy Dopefoot, and where can they follow you on the internet?
The best place to buy Dopefoot would be directly from Maddox Media. That just puts fewer people between me and my royalties. But you can get it from Amazon, you can get it from Barnes and Noble, you can get it from whatever you're most comfortable with. If you have an account and get free shipping, I won't be upset with you. So, you do you. Keep in touch with me on Instagram. I have way more followers on Facebook and Twitter, which I still call it, refuse to call it the other thing. But I've lost my footing on those two platforms. Even though I have way fewer followers on Insta, that's the only place where I'm gaining any traction these days.
Yeah. Well, I'll put a link to your Instagram in
Thank
the
you. I
show notes as
appreciate
well,
it.
so people can go click and follow you. And they should go buy Dopefoot. I agree with that. And buy
Uh,
from Mad X. Joey's a great guy. You should.
Joey is awesome. Joey
Joey's
is stellar.
Joey's the best. So you should go support indie presses like
Hmm.
like Mad X, like Shortwave. Thank you, Josh, for being on the show.
Thank you.